Want to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us for our last night of what I'm calling Life, our Lay Institute for Evangelism. I encourage you, invite you to pray with me that we may invite the Holy Spirit to be with us this evening. Father in heaven, we are so grateful to you that we're able to come to you at any time for any reason. And now, Lord, we ask for the Holy Spirit to lead and guide my thoughts, my words, those that are attending through Zoom or through YouTube, that they may be blessed, that they may be educated, that they may be empowered, Father, to learn something this evening that will benefit and improve their health. So that way their physical body, their spiritual walk, Father, will be improved. And then by doing so and taking these practical things to themselves and using them, that they may be able to help their family members, their friends, their coworkers, and that through these means, Lord, that many lives will be changed, that we may be able to have a harvest of souls being won to the truth. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, well, we're going to get right into, continue on from last night. Here it says, I know that life is a limited time offer, and when it's up, you can't buy, you can't beg, or steal another minute. So this is why it's important for us to do what we can and in every way to try to have a quality of life that we should have here on earth, to be happy, to be free from stress and things of that nature. And therefore we may be able to be a fit vessel used by God. So we're going to finish our herbology, and just sharing with you what the herbs that I recommend to have on hand. And so we left off in golden seal, so now we're going to be looking at peppermint, which is number 5 of the 12. So peppermint, so this is an old household remedy, and is useful for a variety of conditions. And as you see these herbs that I'm sharing with you, the internal, external uses and stuff like that, it's amazing to me every time I present this as to how many different varieties of health issues that we may have that one little plant like peppermint. For instance, it says it's used for insomnia, for measles, menstrual cramps, migraines, morning sickness, muscle spasms, nausea, nervous disorders, chills, colic, fevers, dizziness, gas, vomiting, diarrhea, dysentery, and also hysteria. So externally, you can use it for skin itch, toothache, and local anesthetic to local pains and inflamed joints. And what you can do is take the leaves and then cut them up, make them into like a poultice to actually use it right on the inflamed areas. It says, for example, to open up the sinuses, put 5 to 10 drops into 2 quarts of hot water and breathe it in through the mouth and nostrils. It says, cover the head with a cloth as you do this. Now, you can also put just the leaves and put it in boiling water, and then put a towel over your head as you're breathing this in as you're leaning over into the pot as it's boiling. So it reduces fevers, increases circulation in the body. It's a sedative for the stomach. So if you have stomach problems, especially gas or belching, aids digestion and relieves indigestion, cleanses and strengthens the whole entire body. So it contains antioxidants. Again, it's a lot of these herbs have antioxidant properties in them that help reduce the risk of different many types of fevers, colds, flus, and things of that nature. This also helpful for fighting cancer and also heart disease. So again, if you can take the peppermint on a daily basis, this will actually, it's a good heart strengthening herb. Strengthens heart muscle and calms the nerves. The oil brings oxygen into the bloodstream as well. The peppermint actually binds the oxygen to make it easier, readily available through the blood system to get it to the heart. And the suggestion I have on here should be in every garden. I would encourage you all to work on getting a little herb garden and have these different herbs growing, or have a little herb greenhouse. That way you can grow them year round. So this is kind of a picture of what the peppermint kind of looks like. And this is a different type of peppermint as well. So there's the the budding, the buds of the peppermint. Now, the buds of the peppermint aren't as strong as the leaves, but they are somewhat useful. So the next herb that I would encourage you getting is the slippery elm. The slippery elm, what the part that you want to use is the inner white bark. The other part, the dark part, is usually sold, but usually, and you got to be careful when you're searching for this, because normally it's sold kind of like a filler, and therefore it actually reduces the medicinal value of it. So you got to be very careful. You just want the white bark of the slippery elm tree, and it's invaluable to keep on hand. Internally, it is used for bladder inflammation, bronchitis, colitis, constipation, ovarian cramps, coughs, cystitis, diarrhea, diverticulitis, dysentery, eczema, flu, gas, hemorrhoids, hoarseness, lung congestion, stomach problems, tonsillitis, and also ulcers that the slippery elm you can use. Also, you can use it externally for burns. Again, if you get it in the powder form, you just put a little bit of water to make it more into a paste, or like a paste or a poultice, whichever word you want to use, and then put it over the area that's the burn, what have you. Wrap it up again with like a plastic wrap. And the reason I say plastic wrap is it helps keep it in that area, and also from staining clothing. It's also good for constipation, diverticulitis, dysentery, gangrenous wounds. So if somebody has gangrene, if you put the slippery elm, again, the poultice over it. Normally, you want to leave it, the slippery elm, if you're using it as a poultice, for about 12 hours. The best is overnight. Hemorrhoids, leukorrhea, open sores, rheumatoid, and gouty afflictions, and also wounds of different types. So the slippery elm is also used to bind materials of suppositories, boluses, lozenges, and unleavened breads together. It makes a nourishing gruel for children, for the elderly with weak stomachs, for those with ulcers, and those who are recovering from diseases. If used as a douche or enema, it must be diluted with water so it will not plug the apparatus. So what it can do is, if you're using it as like I said, like a douche or an enema, the problem is that it will start kind of gelling up, and it can cause plugging, and so that way makes it a little bit harder to be able to have a bowel movement, things of that nature. So you just got to be very careful with it. So the next one is my favorite is lobelia. It says this is most powerful relaxant known among the herbs. It relieves cramps, spasms, and also lockjaw. It primarily is used for any type of bronchial problems, from your nasoconchus to your lung disorders and all that. It's a lung and respiratory for lung and respiratory conditions. It balances glands for proper function. Superior remedy for all sorts of fevers. And so this is something, either if you can get in the liquid's going to be the best. If you can get it in a powder, that's fine. Or if you can get grow the lobelia around, then that's going to be even better for you. So this is both a relaxant and a stimulant, and a powerful helper. Internally, it's used for allergies, arthritis, asthma, bronchitis, chickenpox, contagious diseases, convulsions, coughs, earaches, ear infections. And for earaches or ear infections, you just want to take some drops and put it in the ear, put a cotton swab or whatever, and just to kind of put it the exterior part of the ear to keep the lobelia in. It's good for fevers, all kinds, for headaches, heart palpitation, indigestion, jaundice, pleurisy, pneumonia, food poisoning, St. Vitus dance, teething, and also toothache. And you can just, if you're having toothache, you can just put a couple of drops over the tooth, the gum that is ailing. Externally, is used for snake and insect bites, poison ivy, ringworms, and tumors. If you can use lobelia also for people that have like spine problems, or they have muscle cramps, or having basically any type of like back problems, and you can use the lobelia, preferably in the liquid, and just rub it on there on the back. Let the lobelia absorb into the skin, and it will actually help relax as well as actually healing as well. It says small doses of tincture of lobelia, 5 to 10 drops, will act as a tonic and stimulant. Larger doses will act as a sedative. It relieves spasms and acts as an expectorant. It can be used as a wash on infected or itchy skin conditions. In larger doses, it is an excellent emetic. It is especially good in spasmodic coughing of phlegm. Taken in small doses, it relaxes the heart and actually lowers the rapid pulse. So normally the one that I like, as you see here, is the lobelia from Dr. Christopher's with the alcohol. It's going to get into the blood system much quicker than if you have the vegetable glycerin. The vegetable glycerin, it actually takes longer to get the effect that you need. It says Dr. Christopher considered lobelia to be one of the greatest herbs in the world, and he used it in over 20 of his herbal formulas. Lobelia is known as the thinking herb, or what I consider it's a smart herb, because it will go to the part of the body that is ailing, often taking constituents of other herbs with it. So it actually binds with other herbs if you're using it in combinations. One of the greatest aspects of lobelia is that it removes obstructions and congestions within the body, especially the blood vessels. It will also help the body eliminate toxins, choosing the best elimination channel. So when we have people that have any type of breathing, especially lung cancer, what happens is, as we're giving them, I try to push the envelope to see what they're able to take. They will end up start sweating because the body is trying to expel the lung cancer, the toxins out of the body. And we've experienced where people, let's say if they had their lung cancer on their right lung lobe, then that on the back, it will start reddening up because it is basically inflaming that area, trying to get the lung cancer out. Says it would also help the body eliminate toxins, choosing the best elimination channel. Dr. Christopher used lobelia prolifically throughout his practice and with great success. And lobelia is an expectorant in medicine that promotes the secretion of sputum by the air passages. So what it does, it actually will, it binds, so any of the sputum that is in the lungs, it will, or in the nasal conches, it binds it so that way you can blow your nose or you can cough it up as well. It's a diaphoretic. It induces perspiration. Like I said, if you give them in people that have lung cancers or what have you, respiratory issues in higher dosages, then they will start perspiring. It's also an anti-asthmatic, tending to relieve or prevent asthma. So if they're, especially during this season and all that with the hay fevers and things of that nature, instead of giving people antihistamines, give them lobelia, which is not harmful, but it's very helpful. The other thing is it's an antispasmodic, used to release spasm of involuntary muscles, and emetic, causing vomiting. So at certain levels, some people, again, could be very sensitive, and they could, at low dosages, they can start vomiting, or some people, again, as you know, higher dosages. But the point is that if they start vomiting, it's actually good because you're trying to get all the toxic stuff that could be in their stomach and their intestines to come out, or it may even cause like a diarrhea situation, and that's fine. You want their colon to be cleaned out. It says it has been used in combination with mullein for an excellent glandular formula. The American Indians use lobelia as a cure for syphilis, as a diaphoretic, and also to expel worms. So here's a picture of one of our guests that I think I may have showed it the other night. A lady that Adventist, she was a vegetarian, vegan, never smoked, never ate meat, but because of different factors, she ended up having lung cancer. She was with us for 30 days, went home to St. Louis, and she actually, about a week or so after she left, she coughed this up, and she said this thing about killed her and stuff. So we have seen similar results like that with other people that have had similar situations and stuff. So the next, number 8, is aloe vera. As you know, aloe vera can pretty much grow anywhere, and especially inside. The gel from the leaves of this desert plant is invaluable. It is best used freshly picked from a plant. Keep several plants growing. You cannot have enough. Internally, it's good for chronic constipation, gastritis, hyperacidity, and also stomach ulcers. Externally, is used for abscesses, for burns. My mother used to grow this all the time, had it all throughout the house. And so anytime you had a cut or burn, what have you. It's also good for infections and wounds, insect bites as well, skin irritations, and also ulcers. When applied on the skin for severe burns and skin rashes, it can be left on for 2 days without actually having to change the application. Now, a lot of times people won't leave it on there for 2 days, which is fine. You know, you can cut the basically the stem of it, slice it in half, put it right over if you have a burn or infection and all that, and just wrap it up with a gauze and leave it there for at least overnight to maybe 24 hours or so. It goes on, going on, it says, do not use it during pregnancy or in large doses when there are hemorrhoids. So it's not advisable then. The next is Cascara sagrada. It says this is one of the safest laxatives for chronic constipation and is not habit forming as well. So this one you can use more on a consistent basis. Internally is used for constipation, cough, gallbladder disease as well. So if your gallbladder is toxic, you can take the Cascara sagrada. It's also for gastric and intestinal disorders, for hemorrhoids, indigestion, and for people that have jaundice. So if it's good for the gallbladder, then it's going to be very helpful for helping detox the liver as well. So I would encourage you. And normally liver detoxification, even for people that are vegetarians or vegans, I would encourage them at least once a year to go on a 5-day liver gallbladder cleanse protocol. We actually have it. We give it to people for them to follow. So another one is the corn silk. The corn silk from a non-GMO corn, you can either take it freshly from off the stalk and then boil it, make it into a tea, and then drink it, or you can dry it out for later usage and then put it in an amber jar to be able to retrieve it later on. So this is the best single herb for increasing urine flow. So if you have people that have fluid, have fluid retention, then this is a great diuretic. This is thus helping to eliminate kidney and bladder problems. And the corn silk will actually help clean and detoxify the kidneys and the urinary tract. Internally, it is used for bedwetting, chronic cystitis, inflammation of kidneys and bladder, kidney stones, for prostate as well. So if it's cleaning the bladder, then it's going to also help improve, especially for men, and reduce the risk of prostate enlargements or even prostate cancers. This is also good for excess uric acid. So if those that are, we want to encourage people to come off of meat, but if people still eating meat, then at least if they take the corn silk, try to drink it a couple of times a week, it will help eliminate the uric acid from eating meat, and also urine retention. So it is a good remedy for all inflammatory conditions of the urethra, bladder, prostate, and kidney. It can remove gravel from the kidneys, bladder, and prostate. It helps the aged when the urine is scanty. So when you start seeing older individuals, man or woman, and they're kind of getting like a milky or what have you, if you take the corn silk, it will actually help clean that up. And those that have like heavy sediment. So hops is the number 11 herb that I suggest you having. This is an excellent nerve herb and will produce sleep when insomnia is present, but it also has other uses. So people that are nervous and all that, if you give them the hops in a tea form or even in a capsulated form, then this will actually help calm them down. Internally, it's used for coughs, fever, headaches, indigestion, insomnia, jaundice, morning sickness, weak nerves, stomach tonic, throat, bronchial tubes, chest ailments, tooth, and also ulcers. Externally, it's used for boils, bruises, earaches, inflammations, rheumatic pains, skin ailments, and also ulcers. So the tea is good for nervous stomach, for poor appetite, someone that may have gas and intestinal cramps as well. So a cold tea before meals will increase the digestive process. So if they can drink it, and like, about 30 minutes before they're eating, it will actually help assist in breaking down the food when they're eating. It says the dry herb can be placed inside a pillow, and it will also induce sleep. And how that does it is, if you put the leaves in there, the aroma from there will actually help. It's a good kind of like a sedative to help calm them down, for people to have a better night's sleep. So, all right, number 12. This one is the witch hazel. It says this is an excellent astringent herb and is one of the best remedies for stopping excessive menstruation for women, for hemorrhages from the lung, stomach, uterus, and also for bowels. So witch hazel for ladies, young girls that are having their problems with their menstruation, this will actually is an excellent assist. Internally, is used for diarrhea, diphtheria, hemorrhoids, leukorrhea, prolapsed bowels, varicose veins, meaning if they've already protruded and they've been there for quite a while, it will help improve it, but not reverse it completely. And for uterine problems, it is used to stop bleeding from the lungs, the uterus, and other internal organs as well. Very helpful. Externally, it is used for burns, for bruises, and you can take the leaves. Again, you can either cut them up, you can mash them, and then make a poultice to put over the area. For diphtheria, for insect bites, leukorrhea sore for breasts, sore muscles, tonsillitis, and also varicose veins. It says witch hazel can be used as an injection for bleeding piles, vaginal discharges, and infections. And you can grind this up again into a poultice to actually use as a suppository. And so someone for a lady that has constant vaginal discharges, this will actually reduce that and eventually eliminate it. As either a fomentation or poultice, it is good for wounds, bed sores, sore and inflamed eyes, and oozing skin diseases. It is good for almost any internal or external flame conditions. So have the witch hazel, again, is part of your medical missionary natural remedy medicine cabinet. So now we're going to look at the next 8 herbs if you can. And the reason I'm promoting these is because this is something we've used all the time. There may be some other ones that you may need. And I'm not saying going out and get a loan for all this stuff, but as you can work toward trying to have these in stock. So we're going to look at catnip, comfrey, echinacea, flaxseed, ginger, myrrh, skullcap, and vervain. So let's look at catnip here. This is wonderful for children and infants when gas, stomach cramps, or nervousness occurs. This is the children's herb, but it's also helpful for grown-ups. So most of you probably have heard of catnip tea. It actually helps soothe and calm the children down, but also, as I said, for grown-ups. Internally, is used for colds, bronchitis, for dizziness, for fevers, for gas, diarrhea, headaches, hysteria, insomnia, morning sickness, mumps, smallpox, and urine retention. And what I'm hoping that you're seeing is, what's interesting about these herbs is that they kind of overlap each other. So if you can't have catnip, you can use another herb that has some of the same benefits and effects that you would need. So this is also for urine retention. Externally, it is used for constipation, for mumps, and painful swellings. You use catnip as an enema to expel worms. Again, cutting it down, or if you can get it already, that's already in a powder form, dried, and then put it in as make it an enema out of it. Add a little coconut to it, and that way it will harden up for an enema, or basically just for an enema. It says drink the tea for headaches caused by indigestion. So look at comfrey. Comfrey is something that's interesting. You can actually just take a leaf of the comfrey and then take it to your house, put it in the ground, just almost, and it will just start growing, and eventually it actually can take over. So when you're planting or growing the comfrey, you want to kind of have it by itself because it can get out of hand if you don't keep control of it, but it's invaluable to have. So this is an all-around good remedy. Internally, comfrey is used as a tea for upset stomachs, for ulcers, heavy menstrual periods as well. So here's another one for that, diarrhea, for bloody urine, persistent cough. The primary that we use it for is for any type of respiratory, like mullein, lobelia, and comfrey. For painful breathing, like pleurisy, bronchitis, for cancer, and chest pain, like angina. It is also used for as a gargle for gum disease and sore throat, for anemia, arthritis, asthma, internal bleeding, for a blood purifier, especially if we're having, people that have been smoking or doing drugs. Comfrey is great to help clean the blood system out. For calcium deficiencies, for colitis, coughs, dysentery, emphysema, and also gallbladder inflammation as well, which then again, anytime you see something for the gallbladder, it will also be very helpful and beneficial for somebody that has liver disorder as well. Externally, it is used for boils, bruises, burns, for cirrhosis, and for sprains. And comfrey is an excellent for dysentery. It's just one of the best for internal bleeding, excellent for coughs, cataract, ulcerated bowels, stomach, and the lungs. So like I said, find somebody that may have it and start planting it. Have a little, herb box that you're growing these different herbs and all that, and start collecting these and put them in amber jars for longevity, for use and all that. Comfrey, the roots of the leaves of the comfrey plant contain chemical substances called allantoin and rosmarinic acid. Allantoin boosts the growth of new skin cells as well, while rosmarinic acid helps relieve pain and inflammation. So that's why when you take the comfrey leaves, and they're pretty good sized leaves as well, you can actually fold them together and then slice them so that the juice basically out of the comfrey, it will be expelled, and if you put it especially on the skin, it's going to be very helpful and relieving. Now, if you're making it as a tea, do the same thing. Just make slices, put it in the boiling water, and then strain it when you go to drink it. Or if the best thing is to actually take the leaves, dry them, and then cut them up and put them in the amber jar. And then when you need it for a tea, then it's going to be readily there available. So how do you use comfrey for healing? If possible, use freshly dried herbs for this purpose. To get fresh, dry comfrey root, dig the root when it is dry weather. Clean by hand or use some water and a vegetable brush and brush the root gently. To get freshly dried leaves, harvest, wipe the dirt off with a towel and allow it to dry whole overnight. So the best thing is, again, if you can get it fresh, but if you can't, then it can reactivate it if it's already dry by putting it in boiling water. So if you use it as a poultice, bruise the fresh leaves and apply as a poultice to the wounds for burns, open sores, gangrene, and also most ulcers. The tea can also be put on them as well. So if you make it in a tea, you can actually, pour it over the wound. It says keeps them growing in your garden. Once established, it will keep coming up year after year. So now, number 15, echinacea. We use this especially for when we're doing our fever treatments and stuff. So this is a powerful blood cleanser, another great blood cleanser. You can, again, combine with the golden seal. Now, when we were first started, I talked about the golden seal, that really you only want to go about 10 days of using the golden seal, because then there's potential that it can start damaging the kidneys. But the golden seal and echinacea in combination is a very powerful natural antibiotic. Internally, it's used for acne, for bad breath, bladder infections, for blood poisoning, for blood purifier as well, for boils, fevers, gangrene infections, and inflammation of mammary glands, intestinal, antiseptic, leukopenia, it's basically reduction in the blood leukocytes, for the lymphatic congestion, for skin disease, tonsillitis, uremic poisoning, and venereal diseases. And this one, like I said, use it for 7 to 10 days. You need to come off of it, wait maybe a week or two before you try to take it again. So it's the same guideline for the golden seal. So externally is used for open wounds, painful swellings, for boils, skin wounds, and burns. Echinacea is an excellent antibiotic and ranks with golden seal and also red clover. It has been used against syphilis and also gonorrhea. Okay. Flaxseed, number 16. The best way to take the flaxseed is actually to freshly grind it if possible. It says this is even more miscellaneous than slippery elm and is good for a variety of problems. What it does is if you don't use it in quick, it can start gelling together. And so when you take flaxseed and grind it, you want to take it, especially if you put it with a liquid and all that. Internally is used for asthma, bronchitis, catarrh, constipation, coughs, diarrhea, enteritis, flatulence, hemorrhoids, lung and chest problems, pleurisy and stomach ulcers, for normal function of the thyroid gland. So this is very helpful to help balance your thyroid, and therefore should be included in the diet for hyperthyroidism. Grind them just before eating to use all of the benefits as well, because you're going to have the different the omega-3s. So here it says, I put on here the omega-3 essentially fatty acids, which is the good fats that have been shown to have heart healthy effects. Each tablespoon of ground flaxseed contains about 1.8 grams of plant omega-3s. Lignans, which have both plant estrogen and antioxidant qualities. Flaxseed contains 75 to 800 times more lignans than other plant foods. So that's why it's best to have it on hand and eat it on a daily basis as well. Again, a great antioxidant, and so it's going to be very beneficial to you. So you can use this as a poultice, and poultices flaxseed is excellent for sores, boils, inflammations, and tumors. Combine it with slippery elm for boils, oozing sores, and burns. It is also good for all intestinal inflammation as well. So keep it on hand and eat it if you can, several times a week, if not even every day. So number 17 is ginger. It's great herb basically to have on hand, especially fresh ginger. It says this is good for bringing heat into the system, stimulation of the digestive system as well, reversing suppressed menstruation and scanty urine as well. So if you take the ginger, again, the older we get, then our urine starts changing and all that. But if you take in the ginger, this will be very helpful. Internally is used for colds, colon spasms, constipation, contagious diseases, for coughs, for cramps, indigestion, for gas, headaches, morning sickness, nauseous, sinus congestion, and stomach spasms. Also, if you have a loss of appetite, for motion sickness, this is something we normally use, especially when our guest is coming back here. The roads are very windy, and so they can get car sickness. Or when we do our liver gallbladder cleanse, the stuff that they're having to take, it can make them nauseous or what have you. The root or underground stem, the rhizome of the ginger plant, can be consumed fresh. Or you can, dry it into a powder, dry it as a spice in oil form or as a juice. So any which way you can get the ginger, but preferably if you can get it, the fresh ginger, then just slice it or mince it as you need it. It's going to be your best bet. So externally, ginger is used for mumps. Add it to a laxative formulas to prevent gripping. Taken in frequent doses, it will raise the body temperature as well. So if people have a problem, especially with their thyroid, that actually helps regulate your body temperature, then if you take the ginger, it eventually starts balancing that out. Says both ingesting ginger and applying it topically have major anti-aging benefits. It contains about 40 antioxidant properties that prevent free radical damage and protect against aging as well. Whip up a biweekly mass of equal parts of grated or powdered ginger with honey and fresh lemon juice, and to make this face mask and all that, and just apply it straight on your face and all. Another poultice: whip up a biweekly mask of equal parts grated or powdered ginger, honey, and fresh lemon for an overall treatment. You can create a ginger toner. Take 1 cup of fresh ginger juice, mix it with 1 tablespoon of honey, and dab on skin with a cotton pad. It's helpful for radiance boosting. Make a ginger mask. Ginger is known to make skin radiant, and applying it topically can make your skin glow as well. So it actually does, because of the properties that's in the ginger, help slow down the aging process on our skin. So myrrh, it's number 18. It says this is a strong antiseptic and works well with golden seal. Mix them in equal parts when you're going to combine them together. Internally, it is used for asthma, for bad breath, boils, cankers, chronic cataract, colitis, coughs, digestive tonic, bleeding gums, for herpes, indigestion, infections, licoria, mouth sores, skin disease, thrush, and ulcers. This myrrh actually has antioxidant benefits, again, for any type of respiratory diseases. Very helpful. Possible anti-cancer properties as well. And so it should be ruled out as using to help reverse or reduce the risk of possibly getting cancer. So as a group of Chinese researchers revealed that extracts and compounds from Comphoria myrrha resin may be effective against human gynecological cancer cells, or neuropathic pain, and rheumatoid arthritis and stuff. So as we age, we can set ourselves up, especially if we're not eating properly, to having arthritis. And so this will be very helpful and beneficial to reduce that risk. Externally, it is used for cankers, cuts, bleeding gums, licoria, mouth sores, skin disease, thrush, and also different types of wounds. Myrrh destroys putrefaction in the intestines and prevents blood absorption of toxins. It is a good wash for wounds and skin diseases. The powder will dry up most skin problems. It is excellent for most problems involving pus, externally or internally. Do not use it in large amounts or over a long period of time. Normally, the myrrh you will want to use for about 2 weeks, and then you need to come off of it for about a week or two if you have to use it again. And yeah, I guess that's all I'll say about that. All right, number 19, skullcap. Skullcap, this is very good for almost any nervous problem as well. Kind of like hops that we talked about earlier. So if you can't get hops, then the skullcap is going to be another good. You may have to use a little bit more than the hops, but skullcap is very helpful. Internally, it's used for alcoholism. So if you know somebody that is trying to stop drinking, if you give them skullcap tea, or if you give them skullcap encapsulated. Now, again, I like, if you get it encapsulated, always open up the capsule, put it in the juice or whatever water that they're going to take, and then that way it can get 100% absorbed and used and all that. But what happens is with the skullcap, it actually helps reduce the taste or the desire to drink, and so over time, some people can call cold turkey quit drinking. But sometimes most people, it's going to take them a little while and all. Also, it's helpful for convulsions, for coughs, epilepsies, hysteria, indigestion, insanity, insomnia, nervous tension, and nervous headaches. Skullcap is used for trouble sleeping, for people that have insomnia, for anxiety, for people that are high risk of strokes, and for paralysis caused by stroke. And also, if somebody has had a stroke, then if you give them skull cap, it will increase the recovery, the healing process, and time. It is also used for fever for people that have high cholesterol. Basically, they have hardening of the arteries, like arteriosclerosis. People that may have had rabies for epilepsies, nervous tension, allergies, skin infections, inflammations, and also spasms. So this is, again, a good, important herb, the skullcap, to have. Skullcap has been used to wean people off of hard drugs as well. Combined with ginseng, it is good for alcoholism. Skullcap should be used as fresh as possible, otherwise its activity rather quickly dissipates and stuff. So if you can get it, again, in the as fresh as possible. So it's it's an important herb, because as more people are either on prescription drugs or legal drugs, trying to encourage them to come off of it. And the whole premise, again, of Medical Missionary is to for our Adventist people to come off of medications and stuff, because we're looking very soon to the no-buy-no sell. So this is why we got to encourage people to wean off. Now, we can't tell them come off it. We can encourage them. And then we need to look at these herbs that are can be substituted for that. But then the herbs also, they're there to help us get off, but not to become our new drug, but to help people wean off from that as well. So now our last one is vervain. This is an excellent for inducing sweating and to allay fever. Basically, if it's going to cause sweating, then it's going to speed up the process of the healing if you get fevers or colds or flus and all that. But large amounts will act as an meaning it will make you perspire profusely. Internally, it is used for colds, convulsions, coughs, fevers, headaches, measles, nerve weakness, pain in the bowels, and pleurisy. The aerial parts have been used traditionally for many conditions, including stimulation of lactation and treatment of dysmenorrhea, for jaundice, for gout, kidney stones, for people that may be dealing with depression, anxiety, and insomnia. Vervain is also considered an astringent, a bitter digestive tonic, and also a diuretic. Excuse me. All right. Externally, vervain is used for rheumatism, neuralgia, scathia, and swellings of the spleen as well. Vervain is good for pneumonia, for asthma, and other chest diseases. So if you don't have lobelia, if you don't have mullein, you don't have comfrey, then vervain is a good substitute. And other chest diseases. Put the tea on sores to aid in healing. Use it for colds, for flus, for coughs, and upper respiratory inflammations. Now, some people may consider, looking at lobelia, even echinacea, mullein, comfrey, and vervain to put them together. I would be careful because if you put them in the wrong combination, it can be health damaging instead of improving. So it's best to maybe just use the herbs, lobelia especially, by itself rather than in combinations and stuff. All right, we're going to look at essential oils now that we've done with the 20 most important herbs. Now, there's hundreds and thousands of herbs out there. I'm just giving you something to get you started with. And so I'm just going to share with you a few things on essential oils to kind of get you started on that. One of the things that I struggle with, that I don't like is, Adventists get into these multi-level marketings, and I discourage people to get into that, especially these essential oils. And the problem that I have is they're like Young Living or doTERRA, however you pronounce it, them being multi-level marketing, and also the names that they give them. Essential oils are good. They're very beneficial, and you should have them, but you need to find that ones that are affordable, because as medical missionaries, we're trying to reach the people where they're at, not expect them to, um, expend their means that it's hard for them to get, but where they're able to at least afford these. And so the company that I like that we found is Now, but also Eden's Garden. You can buy these on Amazon. They're affordable. They are 100%. My daughter actually, she investigated that for us and found out that there's not fillers or whatever. So there are 100% essential oils, just like the doTERRAs or the Young Living and all that. So you can go to edensgarden.com. You can go to Amazon and purchase these, and they are affordable. Normally, like Young Living, a little bottle like this is 10 milliliters, are going to be about $50, $60. Whereas on Amazon, or if you go straight to Eden's Garden, you're going to spend probably about anywhere from $6 to $10 for the same size bottle. So the first one that I encourage you to have on hand is basil oil. Basil oil helps to clear and expel mucus, reduce your fevers, improve circulation, relieve menstrual cramps as well, stimulates menstrual flow, fight infection, and aids in cases of also depression. So if you get these, you can put them in diffusers and all, so that way they can be breathed as well, or you can apply them straight on. Now, one thing that I will caution you is I did push the issue with one of the companies about, can you take these internally? And they said, well, really legally we can't tell you that you should take it internally, but yes, you can. Just don't just tell people not to take them in large quantities. So just be safe if you are to take them internally as well. The next one is eucalyptus oil. We talked about that as an herb, but it's also great as an essential oil. This is often used with problems associated with colds, for allergies, coughs, flus, sinusitis, sore throats, and tonsillitis. It is effective in relieving congestions and a stuffy nose. It has also been used to relieve pain from headaches and migraines. You can take it, the eucalyptus oil, put some even in your temple. Just have to be careful and don't use too much of it. And so if you have migraines or headaches and all that, you can put it under your nose as well, small amounts as you breathe it. Or again, a diffuser, put several drops in diffuser, and then close yourself off in your bedroom, and then just smell the eucalyptus oil, especially at night. So the next one is lavender oil. This is the English lavender, is considered to be the best. It is used to promote a restful sleep. It can be used for digestive problems as well, respiratory disorders, pain and muscle aches, and skin disorders, and also wounds. So lavender is very powerful and very beneficial. The next one is the lemon oil. Lemon oil is used for respiratory disorders such as bronchitis, for coughs, sore throats, flu, and also cold symptoms that people may have. So peppermint oil says this essence is used in cases of fever, headaches, and to increase energy in the body. It also helps with nausea and fatigue. So if you use it, if you have an essential oil, you can actually take it internally, and it will help relieve nauseousness. Also will help with if you kind of feeling a little lethargic, it kind of helps boost you up. It relaxes the muscle tension and helps with some skin conditions as well. Spearmint oil, this is recommended for use with people that have stomach problems, as well as the peppermint oil, but spearmint's a little bit stronger. It can also aid in digestion and help relieve nausea. So if people have a normal, when they're eating, they're having problems with digestion, then if they take the spearmint oil beforehand, it will help increase their digestion without having gas and things of that nature, or stomach cramps and all that. Tea tree oil, it's one of my favorite essential oils, actually probably the best one that I like. And tea tree oil is well known for its antiseptic properties. It is known to kill bacteria, whether viral, bacterial, in fungal in nature. It is used to treat acne, for burns, cuts, dandruff. Tea tree, I mean, you see a lot of, or starting to see, it's about 15 years ago where they were making the tea tree for shampoos and stuff. Very healing, and it's kind of neat to have because it kind of gives you a tingling feeling. It's also good for burns, cuts, dandruff, respiratory ailments, coughs, urinary tract infections for UTIs and candidias, and also eczema. We actually use tea tree oil in some of our suppositories as well because it being an antiseptic, it has a powerful healing properties in it. So 100 years ahead of time, in the Time magazine back in July 1990, there was an article that was put in. It was actually promoting the Great Controversy, but it was just interesting, the information that was on there. Back in 1869, Ellen White wrote about electricity in the brain. She said, whatever disturbs the circulation of the electric currents in the nervous system lessens the strength of the vital powers. And the result is a deadening of the sensibilities of the mind. So she understood this. Well, in 1934, it says minute electrical charges are vital to the functioning of the brain. This is from the Mayo Clinic that they actually discovered in 1934. Also, she spoke about cancer. 1905 says people are continually eating flesh that is filled with tuberculosis and cancerous germs. It says tuberculosis, cancer, and other fatal diseases are thus what? They communicate. So if you're eating an animal that has disease in it, and we eat it, we ingest it, then it's communicated from the animal to us. In 1956, we're told from the Journal of American Medical Association, says many, if not all, malignant tumors may be caused by viruses or midget germs. Thus, a number of malignant tumors of different species of animals could be transmitted from one host to the other by filtered extracts. So they saw the dangers of eating these diseased animals. Coffee and tea, she wrote back in 1905, says coffee and coffee do not nourish the system. Their effect is produced before there has been time for digestion and assimilation. And what seems to be strength is only nervous excitement. When the influence of the stimulant is gone, the unnatural force abates, and the result is a corresponding degree of languor and debility and all that. So she sees the fact that, yeah, you may get some energy boost, but then you have your ups and then downs. And normally, if you continue doing that, then you have to have more of the coffee to drink to get the same effect as when you first started. In 1967, we're told caffeineism is to be current among intellectual workers, actresses, waitresses, nocturnal employees, long-distance automotive drivers. Illness other unexplained may be caused by excessive indigestion of xanthine alkaloids, including those in coffees, in teas, coca, and those in some popular beverages and stuff. So they recognized that the caffeine that's in the coffee and the tea was giving these illnesses and all that to these individuals and stuff. Then she wrote about 1864 about tobacco is a poison of the most deceitful and malignant kind, having an exciting, then paralyzing influence upon the nerves of the body. It is all the more dangerous because its effects upon the system are so slow. So tobacco, the nicotine in it, there's a slow effect. And it says, and at first, scarcely perceivable. Multitudes have fallen victims to its poisonous influence. They have surely murdered themselves by this low poison. And then in 1964, 100 years later, it says, warning, smoking causes lung cancer, heart disease, emphysema, and may complicate pregnancies. This is from the Surgeon General's report in 1964. So God has given us instruction. He's given us the actual true blueprint of health reform or medical missionary work that we should have been following instead of following what the world has been selling and all, and we would have been the head and not the tail of this part of the ministry that God has given to us. Heart disease, she wrote in 1869, she says, heart disease, the eating of flesh meats, has been a poor quality of blood and flesh. Your systems are in a state of inflammation, prepared to take on disease. You are liable to acute attacks of disease and to sudden death because you do not possess the strength of a constitution to rally and resist disease. So over time, our body is debilitated, and then when it needs to be there to try to arrest the disease, we've worn ourselves out. It says there will come a time when the strength and health you have flattered yourself you possess will prove to be weakness. And so in 1961, again, by the American Medical Association, says a vegetarian diet can prevent, listen to this, a vegetarian diet can prevent 90% of our thrombotic diseases, the clots in the veins and arteries, and 90% of our coronary occlusions. It says these two conditions are responsible for more deaths than all other cases combined in North America. So we should not follow the advice that's been given us by following a plant-based, a vegetarian diets, and we can thwart these health issues and stuff. And by being an example to other people, we can lead them to a better quality of life and also then lead them to Christ. So closely is health related to our happiness that we cannot have the latter without the former. A practical knowledge of the science of human life is necessary in order to glorify God in our bodies. It is therefore of the highest importance that among the studies selected from childhood, physiology should occupy the first place. How few know anything about the structure and functions of their own bodies and of nature's laws. Many are drifting about without knowledge, like a ship at sea without compass or anchor. And what is more, they are not interested, and this is the thing, is many of our Seventh-day Adventists have no interest in the true health message. It says they are not interested to learn how to keep their bodies in healthy condition and to prevent diseases as well. The only time that there's an interest in it is in preventing disease is when they are afflicted by some type of disease, whether it's diabetes, high blood pressure, or what have you, or cancers. So let's look at something that, a couple of things here that is affecting and going to continue increasing or affecting within our Adventists and non-Adventists. One thing here is the narcolepsy. Says this is a chronic sleeping disorder because as we're getting more and more stressed, there's more and more fear and all this stuff because people are not relying on God. So it says symptoms, people are able to fall asleep or more times a day without advance warning. The deep sleep may continue for an hour or two. Even though they may wake up fresh, they will fall asleep again. It says usually they can be awakened easily and during sleep may lose complete control of their muscle, but symptoms may vary. And so a natural remedy, something that can be done to help somebody that has narcolepsy, says rest as much as possible. Try laying down before or after each meal and other times during the day. Retire early in the evenings, even if you're not fatigued. Says do not use tobacco, alcohol, caffeine, or any other types of drugs that you must avoid. Avoid stress situations, and when you feel tired, you just need to basically rest. Maintain strict regular hour for rest and never stay up late at night as well. The other thing is look at having nourishing food should only be eaten. Take vitamin, mineral supplements as needed. The diet should be low in saturated fats and foods that are, reduced clogging foods, including dairy and animal proteins got to be avoided. And then also some people may have allergic reactions to some of the foods that they're eating, they've got to avoid. It says make sure your workplace is well lit. The brain makes melatonin and bright light suppresses the production of it as well. So this is why some people, especially like when you see them at prayer meeting or church service, that they're constantly going to sleep and all that. Encouragement, every faculty which the Creator has endowed us should be cultivated to the highest degree or perfection, that we may be able to do the greatest amount of good of which we are capable. Philippians 4:13 tells us, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. So any problems that we have, we can rely on God, and He will give us the strength to be able to do it. Now we're going to look at bipolarism as well. I'm not going into detail on all of these things, but I'm just trying to give you some highlights because we're seeing an increase in this. Symptoms, extreme pessimism, withdrawal from society, changes also in sleep patterns and all. Excuse me. There's also a sudden loss of interest and value to complete projects that they start with enthusiasm. There's chronic irritability, sudden attacks of rage when crossed, and loss of inhibition and all. So causes, mania is a mental state characterized by excessive excitement. Depression is a mental state characterized by dejection, lack of hope, and absence of cheerfulness as well. And this is why people that have this bipolar condition. Both of these qualities are strikingly observed in manic depression. Manic depression is cyclic, a circular affective psychosis in which there are alternating moods of depression and mania. Ordinarily, there is a series of periods of psychotic depression, that they go through it, and then also an excessive well-being. Like, one day you may see them, all depressed and everything else, and then the next day they're all just what have you, and then the next day they go back to it, appearing in any sequence and alternating with with longer periods or relative normalcy. So here's some suggestions. A good nourishing diet is very important, omitting all junk foods. Avoid processed, sugary and fried foods as well. The more that people eat fried or overcooked foods, then this can actually be a contributing factor. Locate allergy foods and eliminate them. Foods that can cause allergy reactions. Foods which are common offenders includes cow's milk, corn, meaning GMO corn, wheat. They could have could be gluten intolerant, rye, soy, sugars, and all that. Solving the manic depression problem can require weeks of careful diet and elimination of offending factors as well. But so the person that has this condition, can't be just left alone to work out their own problems. You need to be there, and this is one of the things that we as Adventists do not have the patience or commitment that we need. We should be there. In Galatians chapter 6, verse 1 says, "Brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such a one." So if somebody is suffering, we need to be there to help them. And so solving the manic depression problem can require weeks of careful diet and eliminating offending factors in their life. Number 5, to test for glycemia, take a 6-hour glucose tolerance test. During the test, someone must stay with the person and record his emotions and events. Is he on an up, down, or both cycle within that 6-hour period? The other thing is folic acid supplement improves the effects of lithium in treating manic depressives and all that. So make sure that they're eating folic acids. To normalize and strengthen nerve function, high doses of B complex are important. Now, B1, B2s, and B6s and B12s are usually best if you can encourage them to take it by themselves. Meaning in a tablet or encapsulated form, than just finding a B complex, because a lot of times the B complexes do not have enough in there. And so the B1s, the B2s, the B6 help with people that have bipolarism or depressions and stuff like that. Since the minerals found in nourishing food are also very needed, so more from a plant-based or original raw, less cooked process as well will be very helpful to them. Oh, sorry, let's see. Number 8, chromium and vanadium, 500 micrograms of the chromium 4 times a day. Essential fatty acids, 5 grams per day is 5 grams 3 times a day. Niacin, 4 times a day. Vitamin B1 of at least 200 micrograms. Vitamin B5, 50 milligrams. Vitamin B6, 200 milligrams are very helpful. Now, the chromium is, I would encourage you to, for them to take the chelated chromium. It's going to be more effective for them as well. Encouragement says we must accept Christ as our personal Savior, and as we do, He imputes to us the righteousness of God. He enables us to obey the Bible. In John 4:10 says, Herein is love, not that we love God, but that He loved us and sent His Son to be the propitiation for our sins. So this is it. You know, God is going to give us the strength if we're willing to trust and obey Him. Let's look at depression. In the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen again a growing amount of people buying over-the-counter depression medications, like at Walmarts and Walgreens and things of that nature, than just even from just prescription as well, because of having to stay home, not being able to go out and things of that nature. And so we need to should have known how to work with these individuals as well. So let's look at a couple of things. Symptoms: decreased energy and appetite, chronic fatigue, sleep disturbances, headaches, backaches, weight loss, slowed movement, purposeless thinking, irritability, quickness to temper, and feeling like doing nothing and all that. They kind of regress and they're not as active, maybe in church or in their family. Causes: depression may be caused by the loss of a loved one or a job, food allergies, hypoglycemia, environmental problems, or postmenstrual syndrome. It could be anything that disrupts a person's sense of worth, their stability, their security, or even their feeling of being effective. We can also cause people to be depressed by the way we treat one another, by belittling one another, finding fault with one another, because a lot of times, you know, people in church are suffering as it is with their family members, with their jobs and all that, and then we come in and add those burdens on top of it. So we've got to learn how to be a blessing and not be a weight or a problem. 40% of those with this problem have one or both of their parents who suffered it also, meaning this is kind of a history. Depression is twice as common in women as men. I'm sorry to say that, but it is. It affects them because women, either their weight is a problem, they're not being treated properly by their husbands or even by their children and all that. And so there's other compounding factors, and so that can affect, and that's why it affects women more than men. Natural remedies: eat meals on a regular schedule and only eat nourishing foods. Low blood sugar induces depression as well. And eating a high sugar diet also produces depression. So we got to stay away from the sugar and be balanced. It says learn to eat nourishing fruits like vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and legumes. Also, juicing at least once a week. Again, this will actually help boost the immune system and boost the brain function as well. Eating complex carbohydrates increases the amount of the amino acid tryptophan that is ingested. This, in turn, increases the amount of serotonin made by the brain, which calms and relaxes the whole system. In contrast, high-protein foods promote the production of dopamine and norepinephrine, which increases alertness as well. So encouragement here says, if you would have broad views, noble thoughts, and aspirations, choose associations that will strengthen right principles. It says, let every thought and the purpose of every action bend to the securing of the future life. With the eternal happiness it will bring you. For as the heavens is high above the earth, so great is his mercy toward them that fear him, in Psalms 103:11. take some time about diabetes as well, because again, this is diabetes is the number one healthcare that makes the most money in the medical profession and stuff. And to me, diabetes is one of the things that can be the least, the disease that can be reversed more effectively and cost effectively as well. And people should not be having to suffer from that. So we're going to look at preventing and reversing diabetes through God's help. The staggering cost of diabetes today, 4,660 Americans will be diagnosed with diabetes just today alone and every day. Nearly 30 million Americans already have diabetes. Another 86 million have what's called pre-diabetics. And so normally every year, the cost in American dollars is about $322 billion to treat people that have diabetes. So 1 in 5 healthcare dollars is spent in caring for people with diabetes. 1 in 3 Medicare dollars is spent caring for people with diabetes. And so this is a huge problem, financial problem, and all that. Says the average American, and here's some problems, is the average American carries around an extra 23 pounds. This can set up for diabetes and heart disease and things of that nature. Heart disease and stroke will claim the lives of about 460,000 American women each year. And also robotic prostate surgeries, about 250,000 of them, will also be done in America pretty much every single year. 40% of Americans are obese. 1 in 5 children are obese. 50% of Americans are taking some type or form of drugs. Statistically, they actually said that every American has about 11 drugs. Most people, a lot of people don't. So there's people that are taking high dosages or high amounts of drugs. We've had guests that have come with 40 to 50 drugs that they're taking, every single day. So it's very, very sad. We spend about $2.2 trillion in healthcare. You see, there's no money in healthy people, and there's no money in dead people. It's those that are in between there. So we need to help people to come off of that spending cycle and that whole cycle basically as well. Every minute, a person in the U.S. is killed by heart disease. 1,500 people a day die of cancer. Combine these two diseases, call over 1 million Americans each year that are dying. Diabetes from the ages of 45 to 55% have increased in the last 50 years by 900%. And again, we are eating ourselves to death. 2 million people will be diagnosed with diabetes this year. Diabetes is the 7th leading cause of death. The reason is that people that died normally, if they don't attribute all the deaths by diabetes, even though diabetes may have been the beginning factor that was a precursor for heart disease and what have you. Diabetes is the most costly healthcare problem paid for by Medicare, or really by the taxpayers and all. So complications is the leading cause of blindness, is also the leading cause of end-stage kidney disease. This is what happens when people that have diabetes, is responsible for 60% of non-traumatic lower limb amputations, meaning those that either, most of the time the amputations are caused by in their legs and stuff, but I have seen some that their arms have been amputated, and this should not have happened. It causes also heart disease, which is also the leading cause of death for diabetics, 68% of them. Causes high blood pressure, 73% of diabetics have high blood pressure. Increases the risk of stroke by 2 to 4 times if you do have diabetes. Damages your nerves in 60 to 7% of the people with diabetes. And it also can shorten the life expectancy 4 to 7 years, what the average healthy American might be able to live. So what is diabetes? Diabetes is the disease that impairs the body's ability to use food, carbohydrate, caused by an insulin defect, such as the pancreas quits making insulin, which is type 1. or body is resistant to insulin, which is type 2, which most people have type 2, as you know. It says without adequate insulin, sugar builds up in the blood, damaging the body's tissues and the organs as well. So here's the prevalence. Diabetes, 11 to 12% of U.S. adult population aged from 20 above have diabetes. 27% of people that are 65% or 65 or above have diabetes. Pre-diabetics, there's another 36%, meaning 1 out of every 3 adults, or those that are not counted as has diabetes, has pre-diabetes, which is around 80 million. So there's 350 million Americans, and so 80 million of those are walking around as pre-diabetics. So here's some other signs that the people may have: unusual thirst and frequent urination, extreme hunger, unusual weight loss, fatigue. They have irritability. Excuse me again. Frequent infections, including bladder infections, blurred vision, cuts or bruises that are slow to heal, tingling, numbness in the hands or in the feet. Normally, it will start with the feet, not necessarily the hands, but most of the time it's the feet. So percentage of diabetes increased in the last 10 years. You can see in America, 23% increase, 24% in Asia, 33%. The highest rate is there in Australia. So Australia actually as a country is the number one diabetic or diabetes in the world. You can see in Africa, 50%, 44% in South America. The world, it has increased in the last 10 years, 46% on average, which is very sad because seems like the rest of the world's following the sad diet of Americans and stuff. So here's diabetes and the risk of Alzheimer's. Study of 824 seniors found those with diabetes were 65% more likely to develop Alzheimer's disease after adjusting for age, sex, and their education as well. And so it increases the risk of all cause of mortality, those that have diabetes. The good news is most cases of type 2 diabetes can be prevented and cured. Again, it's a matter of educating. Most cases of type 1 diabetes can be prevented and cured. I know many that are maybe watching, listening, they're like, no way. The thing is if you read or listen to Dr. Schultz, if you listen to others that have actually worked with people that have type 1 diabetes, they can improve their quality of life by being careful, obviously, what they're eating, doing several cleansing and detoxes and everything else that will help improve the function of the pancreas and all that. But again, most of the people that have diabetes is the type 2 diabetes. And normally within 30 to 60 days, the type 2 can be reversed. And I'm going to share with you what can be done. In a 16-year study of 84,000 women, they studied 4 major risk factors: overweight, sedentary lifestyle, smoking, or they had a poor diet, meaning low fiber, high trans fat, high glycemic index. Women with one of these risk factors cut their risk of diabetes by 88% to 91% compared to all the other women. If they just cut one of them, meaning if they just lost weight, they reduced their risk. Those with a family history of diabetes cut their risk by 91%. And this is in the New England Journal of Medicine. Just better medical care is not the answer to solving these diabetes. It says diabetes is too costly to treat. 1 in 3 babies born today will develop diabetes. This will overwhelm the healthcare system and ability to pay for treatment as well. So the key has to be prevention must be the nation's focus. And that's the sad thing that they're not focusing on that. So here's the risk factor. Increased age, 45 and above, can increase it by your race. If you're African American, has the highest risk factors of diabetes. If you're Hispanic or if you're Native American or Pacific Islander, those are the ones that have the highest risk factors. It says women with gastrointestinal diabetes or baby that is over 9 pounds, large babies, people that are overweight that have a waist girth, meaning their waist is larger than their belt, or people that are smoking, people that have high blood pressure, people that are consistently eating poor diet, like excess calories, high glycemic fat, low dietary fiber, high saturated trans fats, low polyunsaturated fat, people that have, again, high blood fats as well, high HDLs, elevated blood sugars, as from 100 125, which can be an indication of for being pre-diabetic. So these are some risk factors that we need to seriously look at, start reversing these things to reduce our risk as well. So here's some prevention steps. Be physically active. On a daily basis, you should be exercising for 20 to 30 minutes. Best to do it in not in 5 or 10 minute sections, but it's best to get out there for 20 to 30 minutes at a time. Avoid meats and dairies, avoid alcohols, avoid unnatural sugars. Achieve and maintain a healthy weight. Your body will know what you need to lose. Don't go on these fad diets or just say, well, I'm going on a diet. Just change your lifestyle. Change, the amount that you eat, when you eat, be consistent and all that, and then the body will start losing, shedding those pounds off your body. Avoid smoking as well. Be physically active. Aim for 30 minutes plus of moderate physical activity, such as brisk walking, at least five times per week. 8,600 men free of diabetes studied for 6 years. They found highly fit men were protected against getting diabetes, but as opposed to low fit men were 3.7 times more likely to get diabetes than highly fit men that were exercising 5 times a week. Moderately fit men were 1.7 times more likely to get diabetes than highly fit men. So we got to get out there. Don't just, sit. We got to work, around the yard, walking, exercising, bicycling, swimming, all those type of things that are very helpful and very productive. So exercise and weight loss improve insulin sensitivity. So regular activity improves insulin sensitivity in the liver and peripherally, lowers blood glucose levels as well, lowers glycated hemoglobin levels, lowers blood pressure. Also, it lowers your blood fats. It raises your HDL level, which is your good cholesterol. The result is a lower demand on the pancreas and helps prevent diabetes complications in the long run. So excess body fat is the single largest cause for diabetes and all. So risk for diabetes too increases directly with what I mentioned earlier, the waist girth. The larger the waist, the higher the risk that you're going to have. 80% of men who develop diabetes too had a waist girth greater than 37 inches. So we got to be, consistent to try to lose the excess weight that our body does not need, especially our heart as well. So this is just some slides that talk about the increase of being a diabetic to having neuropathy as well, which is, again, is something that we can prevent naturally from having by having a proper diet. So 7 natural remedies for diabetic neuropathy. 1, manage blood sugar levels. Follow a healthy diet. Exercise and try physical therapy. Reduce exposure to toxins and quit smoking. Manage your stress. Lower pain naturally and protect your skin and also your feet. So these are some things that can help reverse or reduce the risk of neuropathy. One of the things that I found that people can do, that if they do have diabetic neuropathy or even non-diabetic neuropathy, is we encourage them to get this cayenne. It's a cayenne deep heat salve that they can put on their legs and on their feet and their toes and all that. Also, if they're using, but don't use the cayenne in the infrared heat lamp, but use the infrared heat lamp on a daily basis, at least 30 minutes a day to an hour. what it does is create blood circulation. And so as they're changing and improving their diet, it will help reverse or even reduce the risk of diabetic or non-diabetic neuropathy. The far infrared, it says purchase an infrared 150 to 150 heat lamp, place on a bendable lamp stand, and do about 30 minutes therapies 1 to 3 times per day if you're able to. Beneficial for those that are suffering with cancers and tumors and blood circulation, arthritis, and other health challenges. And then place it within 10 to 12 inches from the body. So it depends on the wattage, how close you want it to your legs, to your feet. You can use it on your chest and what have you, but the higher the wattage, the further you want to get it away. So you can purchase these usually at many of the hardware stores, or you can find them online and start using this to reverse or to help work with individuals that may have neuropathy. As I mentioned earlier, this is a good book if you can find it on Amazon or eBay. It's called Simply Raw. In most cases, and like I said, we've worked with many diabetics, and normally 30 days to 60 days. I was actually asked to go to Birmingham, Alabama, and I went there the first Sabbath every month. I would be going down there and I would preach and I would do medical missionary. And then another church in Ardmore, Tennessee, asked me to come, and I was doing the same thing for them. And this lady followed me from Huntsville, and I had talked about, putting people on a raw diet for 30 days. In most cases, you can reverse diabetes. And the lady raised her hand. She said, well, I heard you in Huntsville. And she said, my sister, I told her she's a diabetic, and she went to her doctor. And I said, so what happened? She said, well, her doctor asked her, said, what are you doing? And she said, well, my sister heard this guy say if I go on a raw diet, it will help improve or reverse my diabetes. And he said, well, it is. He cut her insulin in half. And he said, the next time I see you in 30 days, hopefully we can get you totally off of insulin. So it does work. It's just we've got to encourage those that have diabetes or even pre-diabetics to start making changes. And the best thing is put them on a raw diet, do a detox or what have you, to get them on a jump start to reversing that. So people that do have diabetes, I know this is it's a simple little formula here. People that are taking insulin or metformin are discouraged to take the grapefruit. The grapefruit is just a catalyst. The key is the garlic. So they can use orange juice. You can do apple juice, grape juice, whatever, if they can't use the grapefruit. But normally you can encourage them to take 2 large fresh squeezed grapefruits. And then what they want to do is also invest in a good garlic press like that. And then you want them to invest also in garlic. Anywhere from 2 to 8 cloves of garlic. Now, we had a gentleman that was excessively overweight. He was 325 pounds. He was an out-of-control diabetic. And while he was with us, he was taking about 12 to 15 shots a day, about 20 units of insulin at each shot. And he actually left his little piece of paper that every time he would take his blood sugar level, and then every time he gave a shot, he said, I want to give this to you so you can show people that this is my record. And he said, what can I do to reverse this? And we're like, well, I'm glad that you asked, because it was pitiful seeing him shooting himself. And so for him, we would take the 2 grapefruits, we would juice it, but then in his case, it took 8 cloves of garlic. The garlic, the allicin in the garlic is what's the healing properties that actually activates the adrenal gland, that actually stimulates the pancreas. And so his blood sugar was around 500 when he first came. When he left, he was just with us for 10 days. When he left, his blood sugar was about 180, 200 instead of 500. His body weight, instead of 325, it was at 300. So he at least lost 25 pounds while he was with us. Well, That was in 2003 in June. Well, by that Thanksgiving, on Thanksgiving Day, he called and he said, I'm so thankful I'm alive because of you all. He said, I've lost 75 pounds and he was having better quality of life. And his blood sugar had dropped even further down to the 100 to 125 range and all. So it can be done, is just trying to encourage people. Now, the garlic, you can add some parsley to it to kill the garlic smell as well. So you mix it in, the grapefruit and the garlic, mix it in a NutriBullet or a Magic Bullet or whatever, some type of blender just to mix it up, and then pour, and it should be enough to serve a couple of times a day. You could get up to 4 servings. Just depends on the size. If you can get the ruby red grapefruits, then you're going to get more juice out of it. Another something that I would encourage people to get on is the chelated chromium. Chromium is a trace mineral vital for blood glucose regulation due to its effects on insulin sensitivity. Chromium GTF chelate, or glucose tolerance factor from Weber Naturals, offers a high absorbable form of this essential nutrient for enhanced blood sugar control and healthy cholesterol levels. Chromium also promotes a healthy appetite, lean muscle mass, and effective weight management. So I normally suggest 3 to 4 capsules on a daily basis consistently. And what that will do is will help bring the blood sugar levels down. Also, people that have are eating excessively, it will actually reduce your desire of excessively eating and all that. And then your weight will start coming down. It increases your body's metabolism to break down excess fats and things of that nature. So this is a very very well-deserved investment to having in your life. So that's why, if people are trying to lose weight, chelated chromium is going to be it's going to be a blessing to you. But also, if you have high blood sugar levels, it will also help reduce the glucose levels in your body. So the benefits: it helps support insulin sensitivity, aids healthy glucose metabolism, supports appetite control and weight management, helps the body to metabolize carbohydrates and fats, promotes healthy lean body ratio and muscle mass, supports maintenance of healthy blood cholesterol levels, particularly important in those that have diabetes. So I would look to invest in that and take those, again, on a daily basis. The other good is wheatgrass. You can get it in a perfect food. There's different ones out there, but wheatgrass has only about 10 to 15 calories per teaspoon. It has no fat or cholesterol, and it has nearly 1 gram of protein per teaspoon, and it includes all 8 of the essential amino acids as well as 13 of the remaining 16. The amino acids it doesn't contain are easily made within the body. It contains vitamins such as A, B1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and 12. It's got vitamin C, vitamin E, and K. And so a teaspoon of wheatgrass contains around 15 milligrams of calcium, 8 micrograms of iodine, 3.5 micrograms of selenium, 870 micrograms of iron, 60 milligrams of zinc, and many other minerals as well. So learn to grow I won't be able to show you how to grow your own wheatgrass, but it's very well worth growing your own wheatgrass. And if you can juice the wheatgrass, I know Champion Juicer has an attachment for those that have a Champion Juicer for about $90 to $100 to put on there to juice your wheatgrass instead of spending. I know that you can spend more for just a wheatgrass juicer. Without yeast flakes, it's very beneficial because we used to have this perfect food made for us and all that. So here's a perfect morning drink for those with diabetes. It says for those that have type 1 or type 2, what you do is put this together. This is from Dr. Schultz breakfast drink. Try this recipe for an awesome 150 calorie breakfast. 2 ounces of fresh organic fruit juice, 1 strawberry, 2 blackberries, 4 raspberries, 4 blueberries, 1/3 apple or 1 1/3 banana or 1 apple, pear or peach. It doesn't really matter, whatever. If you change it up every day, that would be good too. 2 raw walnuts, 4 raw almonds, 2 teaspoons of raw sunflower seeds, 1 teaspoon flax seeds, a teaspoon of chia seeds, 2 tablespoons of superfood plus, just a superfood that you can find. Even spirulina, it's a great superfood by itself, so you can get 2 tablespoons of that. 1 teaspoon of herbal mucil plus 14 ounces of the herbal tea, of an herbal tea, or just 14 ounces of water. Then what you do is you mix all this together in a high-speed blender for about 30 seconds, and then the thing that we do want you to do is try to use organic produce as much as you can. So 2.7 trillion that is annually spent on healthcare costs, and so that much money you would have thought that the cure would have been for cancers and diabetes and all that, but it's not. So let's look at what is disease here. We've got about 15 minutes left. And it says disease is an effort of nature to free the system from condition that results from a violation of the laws of health. And so when we get sick, we need to assist our bodies in our sickness to expel that out from our bodies. And so we're going to look here in the remaining time, and we may not be able to cover much of it, but about cancer. It's prevalent there. Many of our family members, you may have had to deal with cancer, and so we're going to talk about cancer. As I mentioned earlier, in 1905, Ellen White talked about cancer and how that it's contagious from eating animals that have these diseases. And in 1956, it was verified in the American Medical Association. So I'm not going to read this again. So cancer is a term used for diseases in which abnormal cells divide without control and are able to invade other tissues. Cancer cells can spread to other parts of the body through the blood and lymphatic system. This is why it's important for us to make sure that our blood is constantly being cleaned through the liver properly. Cancer is not just one disease, but many diseases. There are more than 100 different types of cancers. Most cancers are named for the organ or type of cell in which they start. For example, cancer that begins in the colon is called colon cancer. Cancer that begins in basal cells of the skin is called basal cell carcinoma. So here's some different types or groups of cancers. For instance, carcinoma, cancer that begins in the skin or in the tissues that line or cover the internal organs. Sarcoma, cancer that begins in the bone, cartilage, fat, muscles, blood vessels, or other connective or supportive tissues. Leukemia, a cancer that starts in the blood forming tissue, such as the bone marrow, and causes large numbers of abnormal blood cells to be produced and enter the blood. Lymphoma or myeloma, cancers that begin in the cells of the immune system. And then we have the central nervous system cancers that begin in the tissues, the brain, and the spinal cord as well. So as you can see here, when you have a normal cell, really there's 3 stages of a normal cell. There's the birth of a cell, the life of the cell, and then the death of the cell. But what happens with the cancer cells is they're born, then they have a life. The problem is the third step that doesn't take place. They don't die. They actually replicate, they divide themselves, and then they continue growing. And that's where the key is trying to work with them naturally to try to kill those cancer cells from continuing duplicating themselves and continue growing and actually gelling together. And so this is one of the biggest contributing factors, is eating our cells to death, and that increases the risk of different types of cancers and stuff. So the origins of cancer says all cancer begins in cells, the body's basic unit of life. To understand cancer, it's helpful to know what happens when normal cells become cancer cells. So for instance, a cancer cell, it normally divides, as you can see the picture there. And so it normally takes about a year for one cancer cells to divide to 16 cells. It will take several years later for that to be able to be picked up by like an MRI test and all that. So if people that had been treated by chemo and radiation, and the doctor tells them, well, if you're, you got to wait 5 years before you can say that you're cancer free. The problem is it actually takes 8 years for the MRI to pick up the 1 million cancer cells where it's big enough for the MRI to detect. So really they're not cancer free. If people live 5 years in 1 day, then doctors and all that say, well, it was a success story. They lived beyond 5 years and all that, which is really sad to even for them to say that. It says the body is made up of many types of cells. These cells grow and divide in a controlled way to produce more cells as they are needed to keep the body healthy. When cells become old or damaged, they die and are replaced with new cells, which is the normal process and all that. It says, however, sometimes this orderly process goes wrong. The genetic material, the DNA of a cell, can become damaged or changed, producing mutations that affect normal cell growth and division. When this happens, cells do not die when they should, and new cells form when the body does not need them. The extra cells may form a mass of tissue called a tumor. Not all tumors are cancerous. Tumors can be benign or malignant. So here's a definition. Benign tumors aren't cancers. They can often be removed, and in most cases, they do not come back. Cells in benign tumors do not spread to other parts of the body. Malignant tumors are cancerous. Cells in these tumors can invade nearby tissues and spread to other parts of the body. The spread of cancer from one part of the body to another is called metastasis. Some cancers do not form tumors. For example, leukemia is a cancer of the bone marrow and also the blood. So a report from the nation's leading cancer organization shows that rates of death in the United States from all cancers for men and women continued to fall between 2004 and 2008. The most recent reporting period available that, now this is obviously several years old, but it says estimating new cases and death from cancer in the United States in 2012. So the new cases, there's about 1.6 million that normally come out every year of those that are contracting cancers. But the death rates, the last number was about 577,000, and that every year continues to grow as well. It is estimated that 1.6 million men and women will be diagnosed with, and 577,000 men and women will die of cancer of all sites. And the last statistic that I saw was in 2012. So those are not good numbers there. Symptoms of having cancer. So the most common symptoms of cancers are sore that does not heal on the skin, mouth, tongue, or lips. Any irregular or unusual bleeding or discharge from any body opening. A persistent change from normal in the action of the bowels or bladder. Any persistent lump or thickening in breasts or anywhere on the body. Hoarseness or nagging cough. Difficulty in swallowing. Persistent indigestion or loss of appetite, especially if accompanied by loss of weight. Sudden or rapid changes in the form, appearance, or rate of growth of a mold or wart, or if it starts bleeding as well. And then potentially persistent fatigue if you're constantly tired all the time. So leukemia, you can have whiteness of skin, weight loss, fatigue, repeat infections, easy bruising, nosebleeds, stomach, indigestion and pain after eating, bladder and kidney. These are some signs that potentially you could have a cancer in these areas. Blood and urine, an increase in urination frequency. Bloody urine is generally not cancer a symptom, but it can be. Also, ovaries, usually there are no obvious symptoms until in the later stages. Cervical or uterine, Bleeding between periods, unusual discharge, painful periods, or heavy periods, or even if you've gone past that a monthly cycle, you could still be bleeding from that. It could be, it should be a very a big concern. So, skin cancer, a lump under the skin, moles which change color or size and have raised edges, an ulcer which does not heal, flat sores, lesions which look like moles, mouth or throat, chronic ulcer of the mouth, tongue, or throat which does not heal, larynx, persistent cough and hoarse throat, lung, persistent cough, bloody sputum, and chest pain, breast, lump which is hard, does not go away, and does not move, inflammation or a thickening of the skin, and all that. So these are some symptoms you can have. Prostate, weak or interrupted urine flow, continuous pain in lower back, pelvis, and or upper thighs, testicles, enlargement of testicle lumps, and mild ache in the lower abdomen or groin. The colon, blood in your stools, rectal bleeding, changes in bowel habits. If you know that you're consistently on every day and same times going to the bathroom, there's some irregularities such as diarrhea or constipation. Lymph node tissue, enlarged rubbery lymph nodes, also itching, night sweats, unexplained fever, and weight loss are some symptoms and signs. So a Harvard Medical School study concluded that eating more peanuts, butter, corn, nuts, and beans, including lentils and soybeans during adolescence significantly reduces the risk of breast cancer later on in life. So legumes, nuts, corn, non-GMO corn can cut the risk of those later in life of breast cancer. So we encourage not only our young people, but also ourselves to increase the legumes and all that in our diet. So the researchers followed 9,000 young women that were between 9 and 15 years of age when the study started in 1996. They completed diets questionnaires every year through 2001, 3, 4, 7, and 10. When they reached 18 to 30 years old, the number of benign breast diseases that had developed was recorded. The statistics associate a daily serving of nuts and legumes at age 14 with a 66% reduction in the risk of developing breast cancer. Just a single serving of peanut butter every other day, every 3 days at the age of 11 was associated with 44% reduction of breast cancer risk. Intake of at least one serving of corn every 3 days was also correlated with a 39% reduction in the disease. So I'm just showing you what the research had found by including this in their diet. So it says earlier studies at Harvard found that eating pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, soybeans, tofu, and other vegetable fats also reduce the risk of developing breast cancer as well. A study recently published in the journal Environmental Health reports that frequent use of common household cleaning products may increase a woman's risk for breast cancer. So we've got to keep those household products that we can buy at Walmart or Target, what have you, and start moving toward a natural cleaning products, including hair products, toothpaste, shampoos, laundry detergents, and all that. So the study was undertaken by the Silent Spring Institute, a partnership of scientists, physicians, public health advocates, and community activists dedicated to identifying links between the environment and women's health, especially breast cancer that they were looking at. So Executive Director Julia Brody says women who reported the highest combined cleaning product use had a double risk of breast cancer compared to those with the lowest reported use. Use of air fresheners and products for mold and mildew control were associated with increased risk as well. To our knowledge, this is the first published report on cleaning product use and the risk of breast cancer. The use of insect repellents was also associated with increased risk as well. So in summary, 1971, President Nixon, Congress declared war on cancer. So my question is, what happened in the 40 plus years since? After weeding out the hype and filling in the actual statistics, turns out not much has happened. It's just a lot of billions of dollars have been spent and with no signs of cure. So one would think that applying all the modern science has to offer over the last 40 years would have brought us far closer to eradicating cancer. Compare it to other technology areas. Our cell phones now are more powerful computers than the largest supercomputers of the time. But instead, cancer rates have increased during the span of time and now surpass heart disease as the #1 killer of Americans between the ages of 45 to 74. So the odds are now very high that you or someone you know has cancer, is dying, or has already died from it. So why has the war on cancer failed so miserably? Well, writing for the Skeptical Inquirer, Reynolds Spector lists the following 6 reasons for the failure. We don't understand the cause, pathogenesis in most cases of cancer. Most treatments, except surgery, are non-specific cell killers and it's not smart. Clinical trials in the grant system doesn't foster innovation. Screening for useful drugs against cancer cells has not worked. Animal models of cancers are often inadequate, and unproductive fads in research come and go as well as to why we have been failing. So getting to the root of the problem says, I strongly believe that the cancer rates are escalating because they are in no way, shape, or form addressing the underlying cause of most cancer. Instead, most of the research is directed toward expensive drugs that target late stages of the disease and greatly enrich the drug companies, but simply do not prevent cancer. If ever there was an area in which an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, is cancer. Strongly believe that if you are able to work your way up to the advanced health plan, that you virtually can eliminate the risk of most cancers as well. Okay. So another thing is environmental and lifestyle factors are increasingly being pinpointed as the primary culprits fueling our cancer epidemic. This includes the following: pesticides and other chemical exposures, processed and artificial foods, plus the chemical in the packaging, wireless technologies, dirty electricity, and medical diagnostic radiation exposure. Pharmaceutical drugs also increase the risk of that. Obesity, stress, poor sleeping habits, lack of sunshine exposure, and the use of sunscreen. So the real cancer advancement that needs to become mainstream knowledge. In the last 30 years, the global cancer burden has doubled, and it will likely double again between 2020 and 2020, and nearly triple by 2030, unless people begin to take cancer prevention seriously. We can turn this trend around, but to do so, the medical community must stop overlooking the methods that can actually have a significant impact. So with that, I appreciate your time that you've given me. Continue to pray that as this is just the beginning of your study and your knowledge and the use of the simple remedies.
We do appreciate your lecture, very knowledgeable, and my prayer is that God may bless every single one and give us the flame of medical missionary work, and that we may start doing practices.
Amen.
The next presentation will be this Saturday. Brother Benjamin Brown is going to have the 2 services at 10:30 and 11:40. So you are all welcome. And now I'll leave it to Elder Brown to dismiss us with prayer.
Very good. Father, as we come before thee, we want to thank you, Lord, for this time that we've had, the last 4 days. As the information that was given, I pray that it will stimulate all of us to research these different facets, the importance of learning what we can do simply and not only improving our lifestyle, Father, but Lord, I just pray that everyone is inspired that's been watching or will be watching to take medical missionary up, to let it be a burden upon them, that their lives may be improved, that they can and help others that are dealing with all these diseases and all that, like you did when you came 2,000 years ago. You dealt with their health problems so that they can spiritually understand the messages that you are wanting to give to them. So bless them. Bless the Colton Church, Pastor Harold, and all those that are involved there. Continue to protect them and let their church grow, Father, and strengthen in these last days. It's my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.